I did some research on the game, and I really think that right now, because of the pandemic, we're looking for different ways to reach out to our psychiatric patients. And so I know that the FDA has kind of opened up a lot of avenues, and they're really encouraging a lot of different things, a lot of mobile apps. So I think as providers, we have to be open to that kind of thing, right? So just with the research that I did on the game, I think it's very interesting. I don't know if you want any background on the game as well,
Yeah.
but I saw that it was approved for children age 8 to 12, I believe, and they're expected to play it 30 minutes a day for an entire month. One of the things that I think is really important with this is that it's not kind of a catch-all thing. It's not, hey, throw away your ADHD medicines or don't go see your doctor. It's always intended to be used as an adjunct therapy. So it's supposed to be used in combination with other things. So I think that that's really the key point that I had. I think it's a great, a great venue. I think kids like video games because they're fun. But we have to also look at how a kid can pay attention to things when things aren't fun, when things are boring, right? And so using this kind of technology can be helpful, I think, from what I've seen. But we need to look at long-term effects and make sure, firstly, that you get them in to see a provider to make sure we've got an accurate diagnosis, that it's not something like anxiety that is bringing on these symptoms or anything else, and that that we have kind of a collaborative approach. So we want parents on board. With ADHD, a lot of times we'll do a lot of behavioral training. We'll try to see if there's anything in the environment that we can kind of help out with. We also will look at the school setting and see if there's any kind of support that we can offer from the teacher perspective. But I think that, we should be open to these kind of therapies because, I think it does improve access to care. It's just not a catch-all. So I think for that age range, it probably can be helpful. We've used video games in different venues in psychiatry and in therapy. So from the research that I saw, we can use it for like biofeedback to help with anxiety, PTSD. So obviously, it's something that is easily accessible, right? It's something that is fun for those age groups. It's just that, and I think even in the studies that I saw, they saw lasting effects up to like 9 months after using this. The problem is that we don't know what that was combined with. I don't think I ever saw anything that was sole therapy. So again, that's just a high point, is that you have to have a collaborative approach with these kiddos. Is that, there's not one thing that's going to help, and it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, right? So that's why things like medications help so much, because there's nothing else that's going to help with the dopamine and norepinephrine that these kids might be lacking. But we can use therapies to kind of help them control their symptoms, help them adjust to their environment. It can be helpful, I think. But I would like to see a lot more research on it, just because I have had instances, and even in the studies, there was a risk of, some irritability. I think I saw headaches, side effects, that kinds of thing. So I think that we probably need more studies to determine if there are any behavioral issues, because I also worry about the increase in screen time and how this is going to be monitored. If you've ever played video games, like playing something for 30 minutes a day, if you're in the middle of a level, you're going to be like, oh, I just want to continue, like I want to go on. So how do we regulate that, and how do we keep them from getting to a point where it does increase irritability and cause some of those behavioral issues? I really think that it's good that we are looking at this. I think that the coronavirus pandemic has kind of we had some of the capability for some of these treatments before, and I think it's just making us look at alternative methods and ways that we can really think outside of the box to help these kiddos. And that's really what we're all looking for. We're all trying to do our best to help and to reach these kids however we can. So I think that it's a good idea. Again, I just think that you have to really look at every aspect and not depend on one single thing. to try to be like a fix-all. One thing that I should mention is that when I did the research on the medicine, that it's not, there are different types of ADHD. So there are actually three main subtypes. There's an inattentive type, a combined type, which is inattentive and hyperactive, and then there's the hyperactive type. So this type of therapy won't work for the hyperactivity impulsive type of ADHD. It only works on the one that deals with focus. You may mention that the studies weren't, from what I saw, like I want to say that they kind of spread the study out over populations that wouldn't necessarily be like indicative of a good population representation. Like they had, I think it focused on children with sensory disorders is what I saw. And so it wasn't just like your regular sample of, hey, here's 100 kids with ADHD. So you have to take into consideration the population as well. But really, I think it's great to look at different methods of therapy and just talk to your provider, make sure that you have an accurate diagnosis, and get the community supports in place.